Okay, so my name is Rawan, and I recently completed my final year of undergrad in health sciences with a preclinical specialization. And I'm really honored to have been invited today to speak a bit about my research that is in the space of medical robotics and AI. And if you have any questions or you want to talk more about my research, please let me know. Okay, so my interest in assistive robotic devices started during a co-op term at a company that developed pediatric exoskeletons, which are essentially robotic legs designed to help children with mobility challenges. Many of these children had conditions like cerebral palsy, and cerebral palsy is basically a neurological disorder that affects movement, muscle coordination, and control. And these devices help improve their ability to move. During that co-op in specific, I spoke with a lot of families to see their needs and to see if they would be a good fit for the device. And I found it interesting that towards the end of my placement, a lot of the families spoke positively about the devices, not specifically about their impact on their movement, but their overall quality of life. And that sparked an interest in my research. So after the placement was done, I still had a lot of questions, which led me to enroll in a global engagement seminar that's actually offered at the university. And when I took the global engagement seminar, it was called Me and My Robot, which I felt was pretty fitting. Um, and that's where I also met my thesis supervisor. So that was great for me as well. And in that course in specific, my team, which was made up of health and engineering students, we looked at how the design of medical robots affects how people use them, which made me think more deeply about how these devices shape children's daily lives, not just their movement, but their development in more specific, which led me to my current thesis today where I noticed a gap. So there's a lot of research on the physical benefits of these assistive robotic devices, but not as much on their social and cognitive impact. And I feel like this matters a lot because if we want these tools to really support our children, we need to understand how they affect learning, interaction, and also independence, which are key components for a child's growth. So this research is driven both by that research gap that I had mentioned, but also the fact that assistive robotic devices are still technically new. They are underused due to cost, access, and also integration challenges. It's not really accessible in a lot of countries. And by focusing on how they support development, we can build a stronger case for using them in schools and clinics and design better tools in order to improve child's development. So that leads me to my research problem, which is how do assistive robotic devices influence the social and cognitive outcomes of children with physical disabilities? But more specifically, I want to look at this by analyzing their role in enhancing interaction, learning, and independence. So the study's overarching aim is to provide insights into the broader developmental benefits of these technologies beyond physical support. So I kind of grouped this research into three main objectives. So the first one was to assess the role of ARDs in enhancing social interactions, but particularly by helping children build relationships, engage in group activities, and also communicate effectively. I also wanted to look at how to evaluate the influence of ARDs with their cognitive skills, focusing on how they support problem-solving skills, creativity, and adaptive learning. And finally, to explore the integration of social, cognitive, and physical skills, so all of them together and how these combined capabilities contribute to fostering autonomy and independence with children with physical disabilities. So, in terms of assistive robotic devices or ARDs in short, when I was doing my literature review and also connecting with different researchers in the field, I came to understand that ARDs are defined and grouped differently among different people. But for the purpose of my research, I focused on four main ARD clusters, which include exoskeletons, which I briefly explained, which are basically robotic devices that assist children with mobility impairments by supporting and improving the movement of weakened or paralyzed limbs. Then we have daily living ARDs, which help children with physical disabilities perform daily tasks like eating, dressing, performing personal care, and also by providing support with motor function and enhancing their independence. Then we have the prosthetic robots, which assist with limb differences by replacing a missing limb or enhancing its function. And finally, social robots, which help with communication, and they also engage socially, offering support for speech, emotional expression, and interactive communication as well. So for the methodology, I took a qualitative research design through a survey because it allowed me to explore in-depth personal experiences since I'll be connecting with families directly. And the study was promoted through different social networks and also existing networks. And also given that this study involved human participants and more specifically children, which is a very sensitive group, I did require a full ethics approval from the University of Waterloo Research Ethics Board, which is right here. So the study focused on parents in specific or guardians of children under 18 who have a disability and also use ARDs for mobility, rehabilitation, and daily living. I also just wanted to take a moment to just clarify why parents if we're dealing with children. Because parents were chosen due to children who have physical and cognitive disabilities. They may have difficulty expressing their experiences themselves. A lot of them are like nonverbal, so it would be a bit difficult to gain their experiences. But parents, on the other hand, they observe their children closely and can provide rich, insightful accounts on how these devices affect their child's behavior, thinking, and also social life. So for the results, in terms of participants, the study initially included around 10 to 12 families, but after filtering for survey completeness, my supervisor and I chose 5 because like the 5 out of the 12 were completed well. The sample size can also be explained by the short research timeline, the pilot nature of the study, and also the fact that ARDs are not widely used. So the pool of participants was not that large to begin with, but hopefully that will change with time. So first, it's important to understand the demographic and device usage patterns for the participants. The children ranged in age from 3 to 11 years, and they had mixed genders and diagnosis, including cerebral palsy, as I mentioned, and other similar disorders. And also the factors, like these factors were key to understand how development interacts with assistive device use. The families reported using a range of ARDs, as I had mentioned previously, for different purposes, which this reflects like complex multidimensional needs of the population for children using these devices. The device usage was generally high and sustained over time, which is great to hear. This is also consistent with better development outcomes. The more you use the device, the better the development of the child. Also, overall satisfaction and ease of use was rated really positive. So this suggests that the devices were well integrated into daily routine as well. And finally, the study itself used mixed method survey design that began with general questions and then moved into deeper developmental outcomes, which allowed the participants to type in their own responses to the questions. So the structure helped to ensure the participants felt comfortable to share both measurable and personal narratives. And some recommendations from the parents included better accommodation of medical needs and improvement to device interfaces, which this feedback could always be taken back to the developers of these devices. In terms of social development, parents notice their children having social development, which include the ones shown in the screen, which are essentially problem-solving skills, communication, engagement, and emotional expression. And in terms of cognitive, this includes overall curiosity, improved attention or focus, independence, and greater ability to follow instructions. So in terms of discussion, the impact of ARDs varies widely based on the child's age, diagnosis, and device type, and how long the children have been using this device. While they can support cognitive, social, and overall development, it is important to remember that the effects aren't one size fits all, and what works for one child will be extremely different for another. Also, longer use of the device made a difference. Families using ARDs for over 2 years reported higher satisfaction and progress, which reflects the research that I found, showing that long-term use fosters familiarity and deeper learning. And age also stood as a key factor. Younger children benefited more from social robots that encourage interaction and early communication, while older children, on the other hand, saw more gains from mobility or cognitive assisted devices, especially in structured settings like schools. However, I did find a few limitations in this research. While ARDs often improve mobility and task performance, emotional and social impacts were less consistent. Some families noted functional gains, but were not very clear on the emotional benefit, which highlights the limited emotional responsiveness of current devices, which goes back to the gap in the research in the first place. Also, caregiver involvement remains a huge challenge. Despite promoting independence that these devices do for the children, many ARDs still require adult support, which can reduce a child's autonomy and increase caregiver burden, which raises ethical concerns around agency and consent. So to wrap it up, some of the recommendations. First, developers should focus on personalization of the device. So this is creating them tailored to each child's unique needs rather than just their diagnosis. I know this could be costly and time-consuming, but if they take time to understand different children's unique outcomes from the diagnosis, they're able to cater the device to the child's needs. Also, the more customizable the device is, the more effective it can support meaningful growth. Also, ease of use is equally essential. Devices must be simple and intuitive for both the child and caregivers. If a device is too complex or relies heavily on adult help, it could limit the child's independence instead of fostering it, which is something we don't want. We also need ARDs that extend beyond just physical support. So the current technologies in the market right now often overlook the cognitive and social development. So adding features that support social interaction and emotional engagement could be transformative. Also, another consideration is ensuring that the device matches the specific disability it is intended to address. As I mentioned, a one-size-fits-all design doesn't account for all the distinctive challenges that come with different conditions. I think I'm almost out of time. No? Okay. Okay. We also need to explore how to balance ARD with natural development. These tools are valuable, but over-reliance could interfere with organic growth, creativity, and social interaction. So it raises question of where do we draw the line between assisting children with these devices and letting them grow on their own as well. And lastly, because this technology is advancing rapidly, ongoing evaluation and feedback from families, therapists, and researchers is crucial to ensure ARDs remain ethical, effective, and truly beneficial to a child's development. And yeah, that's it.
Any questions for Rawan? Yeah, go for it.
So I thought the difference between younger children and older children, like the benefits, was interesting. Was there like a difference in their disabilities? Like, let's say the younger children have more disabilities related to social differences rather than physical, or was that just general? Like just a general trend that you saw?
Yeah.
Because of the age.
That's a good question. Most of the disabilities were similar, mainly being with cerebral palsy and general disabilities that impact neurological condition and their ability to move. So most of them were similar. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering how you designed your survey so that your observations were transferable to the different kinds of devices that people might realize.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the survey itself, I specified the 4 clusters that I just talked about and gave examples for different devices and put pictures in case parents were confused as to what a device is. I also put an option to put their own, like to write something up if they had another device in mind. But most devices were the options that I added.
Question over here?
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
How did you consider like external factors such as like the environment, for instance, right? Like if a parent is too, how do I put it, too protective of a child,
Yeah.
right? That affects their ability to socially interact versus less protective and letting them be a little bit more free and independent. So did you consider that within like the results on yourself too?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I think that's something I also kept in mind while I was designing the survey. As much as I would have loved to get direct feedback from the children themselves, I understood going to the parents could create that biases. And while I was analyzing the feedback that I got, I kept that in mind and I wrote that in my like discussion section in my report. With that, I also understand that different parents view the devices in different ways. Some parents prefer to allow the device kind of like allow the children to gain independence from the device. Other children take more control. So those are the things like I kept in mind, and I also ensured to factor that in my like discussion section of my report. I hope that answered your question. Slightly? Okay.
Time for one more. Take your picker one.
Oh, like, yeah.
One more.
During your research, did you come across any assistive devices that like grew with the person, like throughout their different stages? Cause I know your research is specific to children.
Yeah.
But did you happen to come across any devices that like aided the person throughout their development?
Yeah. Yes, but more like, for example, the exoskeleton device, a lot of them would start off with it, and then as they grew older, they would actually get a device that's a bit larger to accommodate their needs. So some of them, like the social robot, can stay the same throughout. Like, for example, if we're only looking at their teenage, like childhood years, it stays consistent. But the exoskeleton, for example, the older a child gets, the device is like the device stays constant, so they would have to upgrade the device itself. So it would change in that sense, but other devices like the social robot stays constant throughout.
She knows the question.
Oh, no, I was getting up to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
You should look, I don't know if you're considering like graduate school or working, you should look into a company in Hamilton called Imagine Able
Okay.
Solutions,
Okay.
because that seems to align very.
Okay, I'll definitely do
Yeah,
that.
they do it for like drawing and stuff.
Okay.
And writing.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, so it's like imaginable,
Mhm.
except imagine able.
Okay. I'll come talk to you after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it. Jazakallah khairan.
Yeah, no.